afternoon, everyone. I am Carla from the Philippine Eagle Foundation. With me is Sir Jason of the Research and Conservation Program, and we shall be your hosts for today.
Hello, Carla. Hello, and good afternoon, everyone. We are live here at the Philippine Eagle Center, and welcome to day three and the last day of our Wildlife is Here 2021 celebration.
And for those of you who just tuned in, let us give you a quick overview of what Wildlife is Here is all about. So, this is our annual celebration of the UN's World Wildlife Day, which occurs every third day of March. And our theme this year is Remnant Forest Patches for Wildlife and People, which is in line with the UN's theme Forest and Livelihoods, Sustaining People and Planet. So, Sir Jay, can you give our audience a quick summary on our days one and two?
Certainly, Carla. Wildlife is Here is now on its fourth year, and for the first time, our activities are offered to the public virtually. We did a virtual launch on March 3 via Facebook. We had a quick meet and greet with focal people from our partner agencies and showed teasers on the remnant forest patches to feature for the week. On March 4, which was yesterday, we focused on the Aboitiz Cleanergy Park and the Mount Sinaka Wildlife Sanctuary. Not only did we do a tour on the following sites, we also met key people working closely with the communities.
Wow, that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Jay. Indeed, the 2021 Wildlife is Here campaign highlights these remnant forest patches as examples of the multiple services they perform for sustaining life for the region's people and environment. And one of these three areas is the Ali Davao Carbon Forest in Davao City, which we will feature today. So this event will not be possible without our generous partners, of course. Let me thank our co-presenters, the DENR Regional Office 11, Weekly Fund for Nature, Davao Light and Power Company. We'd also like to acknowledge our partners for the project, the Ayala Land Incorporated, the Australian Embassy, the Arakan LGU, University of the Philippines Mindanao, and University of Mindanao. So thank you once again to all our partners. I'm sure everyone's excited to tour the Ali Davao Carbon Forest. We have invited wildlife experts and they have interesting finds at the carbon forest. So please stay tuned all throughout the program. And to our Facebook community, you may drop your questions addressed to our guests in the comment section. So, Sir Jay, can you briefly share with our audience what a carbon forest is, what our partnership with Ayala Land Incorporated is, as well as our reforestation project?
Certainly, Carla. Ayala Land Inc. and the Philippine Eagle Foundation have partnered to organize citizen-based action to restore the grasslands of the property to its original swamp forest state. Through cooperative restoration techniques, we will enrich the Ali Davao Carbon Forest as the city's carbon sink and urban biodiversity sanctuary. As one of very few protected woodlands in Davao City, this urban green space is intended to sequester human carbon emissions while also providing refuge for urban biodiversity.
That's right. And now that we have introduced the Ayala Land Incorporated Davao Carbon Forest, let us hear from the Sustainability and Planning Manager, Ms. Ana Maria Gonzalez.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. I wish I was in Davao and I'm with you in the forest, but I'm really grateful for this webinar, for this virtual event, so that we can actually celebrate World Wildlife Day. So everyone, good afternoon to our wildlife lovers and protectors. We in Ayala Land are really very grateful for your dedication to the restoration of forests and your work with us in our climate action impact project, our carbon sink or carbon forest in Bago Galera, Davao City. So some of you may know that in 2017, we made a promise. We embarked on a journey to carbon neutrality of our malls, offices, and hotels by the year 2022. That's not very far off. And we are doing this by having our property shift to renewable energy and by protecting, enhancing forests in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And I was just talking to a colleague. Speaking of Aboitiz power is actually one of our renewable energy sources for some of our properties. So it's really nice that we're all here together. So like most of you here, I also see the importance of forests not only to help us in achieving our carbon neutrality goals, but also in providing a myriad of ecosystem services, of course, clean air and water, various natural resources, and as well as physical and mental health benefits. That's very important now during COVID. As a bird watcher myself, I have experienced how wildlife watching has contributed to my sanity during this COVID pandemic. One trip outside just to look at birds actually did a lot to lift up my spirits. So I hope that's the same thing for all of you. And of course, as you can see, forests are specifically our carbon forest in Bago Galera also provides haven for wildlife. And as we experienced in the Davao Carbon Forest as well, this forest provided jobs even during the pandemic. No one else was able to go around. So we look forward to continuing work with Philippine Eagle Foundation, who has done so much not only for the Philippine Eagle, but for the Filipino people by working with communities to protect forests. And I'd like to take this opportunity to invite everyone to come and visit and volunteer at the Ayala Land Carbon Forest in Davao and in all of our other locations in Alaminos, Laguna. There's another one in Valley, Laguna, also in Cebu. We've started to accept visitors of at least 5 to 10 people so that you can again enjoy the forest and volunteer there. So thank you very much. Do reach out to our partner, Philippine Eagle Foundation, if you'd like to visit. And again, thank you everyone. Thank you to all the speakers this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to this webinar. So have a meaningful World Wildlife Celebration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay, thank you, Miss Anna, for that message. Now, we hope that's enough encouragement for you guys who are watching to visit the ALI Davao Carbon Forest and learn about deforestation techniques from the Philippine Eagle Foundation. So today, we will bring you to our third and last Remnant Forest Patch 2 feature for the Wildlife is Here 2021 event. And with us this afternoon are our friends from the conservation community whom we have partnered with in several education campaigns already. So once again, if you have questions, simply key them into our public chat box and we shall answer them later. All right, so first up is our virtual bird watching activity with two of the country's distinguished naturalists. So Sir Jason, please do the honor of introducing them to our audience.
Okay, so these two resource speakers are passionate birders, wildlife photographers, and all-around naturalists based in Quezon City. Adrian leads and organizes birding trips all over the Philippines for his company, Birding Philippines. Trinket is a faculty member at the Ateneo de Manila University and teaches molecular biology. They are both co-authors of a photographic field guide entitled A Naturalist Guide to the Birds of the Philippines by John Bufoy Publishing. During this quarantine period, they have been enjoying observing natural history in their garden together with their mini schnauzer, Duku. So everyone, help me welcome Adrian and Trinket Constantino.
Welcome to the ALI Davao Carbon Forest. This is a project between the Philippine Eagle Foundation and the Ayala Land Corporation aiming to bring back urban green spaces.
The ALI Carbon Forest is situated in Bago Galera, Davao City, and is now on its third year of providing ecological, social, and environmental value to people as well.
Hi, I'm Adrian Constantino.
And I'm Trinket Constantino.
We're passionate bird watchers and we are here today to present the wonderful birds of the ALI Davao Carbon Forest.
This is in celebration of the Philippine Eagle Foundation's Wildlife is Here 2021 for the United Nations World Wildlife Day. Are you ready, Adri?
Let's go!
Let's go!
The ALI Davao Carbon Forest is home to 54 species of birds thriving in the various types of habitat found in this lowland-urban green space.
15 of the 54 bird species are endemic, meaning they are only found in the Philippines and nowhere else in the world. Indeed, wildlife is here, and we hope to document more species in the future.
We present the birds of the ALI Davao Carbon Forest.
The grasslands of the ALI Davao Carbon Forest are home to the eastern cattle eaglet. Locally known as tagak or tulabong, it's a very common bird and is usually seen associated with carabaos or cattle.
So they like to perch on top of the carabao or the cows, and they eat insects.
Yeah, that's stirred up by the footsteps of the carabao. Sometimes they even eat the ticks on the cattle or the carabao. So it's a very easily seen bird.
The grasslands of the carbon forest is also home to flocks of chestnut munias.
A very cute bird with a black head and a chestnut-colored body. Did you know that before the Philippine eagle was declared as national bird in 1995, it's actually the chestnut munia that was our national bird. But it's also seen in other countries, and you often see it in grasslands and rice lands eating seeds.
Then we also have the Eurasian tree sparrow. This is probably the most common urban bird in the Philippines. It's called ayambahay or goryon.
Birders just call it ETS. And it's very common, but you see that it's a very handsome bird also with a dark cheek. Here you see it carrying some nesting material, probably going to build a nest.
I think it's a feather.
So in the watery areas of the ALI Carbon Forest, you also might see this white-breasted water hen. So it's a very shy bird, often seen walking beside the water or in the grass.
So it's called locally called kuruwakwak because of the sound that it makes.
What does the sound?
Kuruwakwak, 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 kuruwakwak.
And so it has this white face and black back, and you often see it foraging for insects, and I think it also eats vegetation.
The ponds also attract colored kingfishers, and it's probably the most common kingfisher in the Philippines.
So this is a very distinctive bright blue bird. Even if it's called a kingfisher, it doesn't just eat fish, it can also eat other animals.
Like lizards, snails, snakes even.
Yeah, so even if there's no water, actually you can find these kingfishers. This is another predator, your brown shrike. It's also known as pakiskis or tarat. And it's a very good predator. It eats snakes, small insects, lizards,
Moths, etc. And it usually impales its prey on thorns or even barbed wire.
and it keeps a larder of its food that it keeps going back to in case there's excess food for
So
it.
that's why it's sometimes called the butcher bird.
So this is very common even in highly industrialized areas, in cities
So
and
it's a
in
migrant.
It's a migrant and it only spends the winter here. It's not here all year round. So the forest, of course, the forested part of the Bago Galera is where we will see forest-associated birds, and it's these trees where birds like the white-eared brown dove find refuge. So the white-eared brown dove is an endemic dove. It's called alimokon, and it has a very distinctive call. So you might be very familiar with the call, and this is that bird making that call. So you see it here eating fruit of a native vine. It's
Tibati.
the tibatib. It's a fruit eater. You'll also see it in other fruiting trees, and it's very quiet and hard to spot. Just like this one, very hard to spot, the black-faced kukal.
So this one is another endemic. In fact, this is a Mindanao
Only
endemic.
found in Mindanao.
Mindanao and several islands in the southern Philippines. It also has a nice call, similar to the white-eared brown dove, but slower.
It's hard to spot because it's a skulker, so it's often just walking in the tangles. This is a quiet bird. It's hard to spot because Even if it's out in the open, it's very still. So this is a Philippine drongo cuckoo.
So again, it's another endemic, usually found in forest of the lowlands.
So it has this nice glossy black color and a very thin, sharp bill.
Then we have this coleto. It's a near endemic. It's locally called saling or kuling or iling because of the metallic sound that it makes.
Yeah, and you can see it has that pink around that eye. It's actually pink because that's a bald spot. So there are no
skin.
Yeah, there are no feathers there. So it's very very easy to identify. It has a patch of white also at the back of its neck. So coletos can be very musical and it's very distinctive when they're calling in the forest.
Another forest bird is this black Nape Monarchy. It has this azure, like powdery blue color. This one is a female. The male has...
The male is a little more blue and a little more intense blue. This is in the family of the flycatcher. So you see its little beak, which is opening there to sing. It's used to catch insects.
Then of course, we have our endemic owls. This is the Everett's scops owl. We have this pair. So they usually roost in the dark areas of the forest.
But of course, it's best to observe owls at night when they're hunting. Very distinctive tufts of feathers that look like ears and their bright red eyes.
Then the forest edge of Bago Galera holds several beauties as well, like this Philippine hanging parrot, or locally called kolasisi or kusi.
So this is the smallest parrot in the Philippines, and this is a female. The male will have a bright red patch on its chest. It's a very cute parrot. Unfortunately, these are illegally caught for the wildlife trade. Catching of any wildlife is against the RA 9147.
Or the Wildlife Resources and Protection Act.
Here's another beautiful bird, the Rufus crowned bee-eater, or pirok-pirok. Again, after its sound, it goes pirok, pirok, pirok. So as the name implies, it eats bees, but not only bees.
You can also eat dragonflies, butterflies, as well as other insects. So it's a very agile flyer. So it flies out, catch an insect, and returns to the same perch.
So it's very graceful, and you see that long central tail feather that's very distinctive also. Here's a coppersmith barbet, or a pok-pok, pok-pok, pok-pok. That sounds familiar to you? That's actually the sound of the coppersmith barbet.
So it's the only barbet species in the Philippines, and similar to the woodpeckers, it can drill holes in dead tree trunks for its nest.
So even if it has those bright red patches, it can be difficult to see in the canopy because of its green color. Not like this one. It's really very brightly colored. This is a black Nape oriole, and again, the sound of this bird might be very familiar to you. So it goes. It has that nice whistling sound, and sometimes there are several of them calling at the same time.
So it's locally called kilyawan or antolihaw, no? And it eats caterpillars, insects,
Even fruits.
And then this is you're very familiar probably with this bird. It's a Philippine pied fantail, locally called Maria Capra, bilad-bilad, or baliala.
So you see it wagging its tail there. It actually can spread its tail out, hence the name pied fantail. These are very smart-looking birds, a bit aggressive. They like to dive bomb dogs or cats or even humans, especially during nesting season. They're also flycatchers, and they like to eat insects. They're very graceful in flight, and they also have a melodious, sort of metallic call.
And then we have these yellow-vented bulbuls, no? Locally called pirok-pirok as well, pulanga, or luklak.
So in urban areas, this is probably one of the more common birds you will find. Although it looks generally brown, if you look, it has a yellow patch of feathers under the tail, and that's its vent, and so that's where it gets its name. It likes to eat fruit, like the fruit you see here. So it's always nice to leave some fruit on the tree, share it with our bird friends. Don't get all the bananas.
They're
But
also notorious for eating your chili or your siling labuyo.
yes, if in the morning you find all your chilies gone, it's probably the yellow-vented corpus. But they also eat insects. On occasion, they catch they catch spiders, butterflies, moths, and other insects. So they have that little mohawk on the top of their head. Here's another very common bird. You might see it in downtown Davao in large flocks. This is the Asian glossy starling.
So it's locally called galansyang.
We like to call it the vampire bird because look at those bright red eyes, very distinctive.
And it has this nice, from afar it actually looks black, but it has glossy, greenish, glossy feathers.
When the light hits it, it really shines. This is a black and white bird, but it has a very nice, distinctive, melodious call. This is another endemic. It's the Philippine magpie robin.
So this one here is a male with a darker black color. The female is just a little gray. So that's a pellet there, no? That's being regurgitated.
So sometimes the birds will regurgitate indigestible parts of their food, like the insect exoskeletons.
So this one here is a tiny, tiny migrant, a gray streaked flycatcher coming all the way from mainland Asia.
So this is a very cute bird. It's very small. So up on the trees, we often tell people that it's easy to identify by its behavior of flying out from its perch, catching an insect, and then landing right exactly at the same perch.
Okay, this is an olive-back sunbird, a female olive-back sunbird, locally called tamsi or pipit. That's the female, and this one here is the male.
So the male has that dark metallic blue throat. These are very cheerful birds. You probably see them drinking from flowers in the morning, but they also eat insects as well. Here's another nectar eater. We have the endemic red-keeled flower pecker.
So it's one of the most common flower peckers of the Philippines. And it's a bright red stripe down the white chest is a diagnostic feature.
So it's very pretty, and it has this high-pitched call. You might hear it also in the morning. Here's a larger bird.
It's a gray-faced buzzard. It's a migrant bird of prey coming from mainland Asia. They spend their winters here in the Philippines.
It's a very important pest controller. It will eat beetles and insects, which are pests of plants and agricultural products, and it also controls populations of rodents and snakes.
And then we have here our banog or lawin or Brahmini kite. So it likes to soar up in the sky, and you can see its distinctive white head and rufous brown wings
With the black wingtips. So it's very nice to see these birds of prey or raptors soaring in the air. Sometimes you will see several Brahmini kites flying in the air at the same time, and it's a really magnificent sight. So that ends our virtual bird tour of the ALI Davao Carbon Forest.
So together we saw 25 species of birds from various habitats, from wetlands, grasslands, forest, and forest edge.
We hope you enjoyed our virtual bird walk. Hopefully, in the future, we will be able to do this and bird Bago Galera in real life.
So, but in the meantime, let's continue saving and growing our urban green spaces.
Remember, remnant forest patches are refuge not only for the birds, but for humans also.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
And keep on
birding. Bye.
All right, so that was such an informative and fun bird watching tour at the ALI Davao Carbon Forest. Do you agree, Sir Jay?
Well, definitely, Carla. It was a very beautiful parade of birds. And it was fun, and I'm sure everyone enjoyed it too. And I also like that part when both Trinket and Adri tried to mimic the calls of our birds. No? They did a good job, and ang galing, definitely. And this actually makes the program even more exciting for the next presentation. Would you like to introduce our next speaker, Carla?
Surely. Just a reminder to our viewers, you can start keying in your questions already. We have a team monitoring the comment section, and we'll have time for a question and answer with our speakers after the presentation. So we'll see you later, Sir Adri and Tingket. So from birds, let's move on to trees. Now, our next speaker is currently an ecotourism and biodiversity trainer of the Department of Tourism on their Naturalist Guides training program. He was the former president and is a co-founder of the Philippine Native Plants Conservation Society. He is an ecotourism consultant and plants assessor. So everyone, help me welcome Mr. Anthony Arbias.
Good afternoon and welcome to another celebration of the World Wildlife Day. So this afternoon we'll be giving you a tour of the carbon forest in Davao City. So ever since the COVID pandemic started last year, people began liking plants. So people brought in a lot of plants, primarily for ornamental reasons. And some people took care of plants for food security. So for me, I started planting or gardening 26 years ago. But over the last 12 years, I just took care of native trees because of the advocacy of the Philippine Native Plants Conservation Society. So this is our story. So we have around less than 300 square meters lot in Quezon City, one of the densest cities in Metro Manila. So this eventually became a sanctuary for wildlife. So right now, the trees or the seedlings we planted 12 years ago are already matured. They're already giving birth. They're already giving a lot of wildlings and seedlings, and they attract a lot of wildlife along the way. So this, even on a small scale, can be a sanctuary for wildlife. So all in all, we have around 30 species planted, or rather 30 trees planted on our grounds. So, so ever since we planted, every year more and more wildlife are coming naturally to our place. So we begin with the Lepidoptera, so this includes the butterflies and the moths. So we we often observe that they complete their cycle here in our place from the pupa stage, the caterpillar stage, and then when they become full-fledged butterflies or moth, they are they become food items also for the native avian animals around. So these are the beetles or Tapalopteras, which also began naturalizing in our place. These are the birds which are frequent visitors in our garden. So from the Philippine Endemics up to the most common, and sometimes for the migratory ones also. As you can see, they feed on insects. Those insects come from the trees, and they also feed on the fruits of our trees. So they are actually match for each other. That's why they keep on coming in, and every year there are more species which are new to our place. So these are the herbs. When you say herbs, these are the reptiles and amphibians. We didn't buy any of this, but they naturally came to us. Okay, so we have frogs, we have snakes, we have skinks, etc. And they are all producing naturally in our place. And there are also spiders, the jumping spiders, the huntsman, etc. So they are sometimes predators, but they are sometimes also as food items or prey for other wildlife which visits our place regularly. So these are the other wildlife species we encounter. So what we are saying is, if you continue or you start planting purely native trees or plants, this would eventually become a sanctuary for other wildlife species, especially on urban areas, which doesn't really have enough native species around. So if you're familiar with this two Facebook groups, the UP Wild and the Ateneo Wild, these two wonderful groups are actually teaching the people, especially in urban areas, to be uh, citizen scientists, to be able to record the wildlife they encounter. So either using their cell phone or of their more sophisticated devices. So each time people share to the social media, it becomes an inspiration for others to to become like them and to become stewards of native wildlife. So this is where I live in Quezon City, the most densest city in Metro Manila. So it's just below 300 square meters, but that small place can actually deliver and give a punch to its contribution for native wildlife. So if you're living here in Metro Manila, some of the best places to go uh, nature appreciation activities is La Mesa Nature Park, the Ninoy Aquino Park, the two large campuses of Ateneo and the UP. So these are the remaining places. So what if there would be more people who would be plant even on their front yards or backyards? So eventually this would become corridors, or this would eventually become bigger, so that wildlife can transfer from one place to another and expand their colony even on the highly urbanized areas. So around 1,484 kilometers away from Quezon City, there's this place called the ALI Davao Carbon Forest, located in Bago Galera in Talomo. So as you can see, the one with the red dot is actually the place. Okay, so on its right is the Davao Gulf, and it's on the um, western part is actually Mount Apo and the mountainous parts of Mindanao. So this carbon forest actually helps in having a green sanctuary in the middle of the city. This also helps the city in case of typhoons and floodings. This can help the city to control floods, and also during tsunamis. This can also help the inland communities of that area. So this is around 50 hectares, and this land is owned by the Ayala Land, and it's right now the Philippine Eagle Foundation is managing it for the tree rehabilitation and reforestation efforts. So if this plan is 100%, 74% of it is actually uh, has vegetation, meaning it has trees, it has shrubs, vines, etc. But it's composed of mixed vegetation, meaning the native vegetation and also fruit trees, coconuts, etc., etc. So the company and the Philippine Eagle Foundation is doing a lot of things to improve its species span and to enrich its biodiversity. So what do carbon forests do? So forests sequester carbon by capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and transforming it into biomass through photosynthesis. So this place, or the ALI carbon forest in Davao, actually would be a carbon sink. So since Davao City is also a very dense community or a mega city in Mindanao, this can absorb a lot of carbon released by humans, by animals, etc. And this would help us a lot, or you a lot, because this would increase the air quality in that area. So how does it look from the ground? So on the left side, this is a satellite view of the area. So the green spots you see are actually individual trees. And when you go on the ground level, this is what you can see. So actually, it's like going to a natural forest. Actually, this one is a remnant forest or a residual forest. Originally, there was a forest in this area, some from the beach forest, from the Davao Gulf going up. So it means a combination of the beach forest and the tropical lowland evergreen rainforest in the area. So there are a lot of mature trees already, and then there's also a lot of planted trees. So this one is a field photo of their staff in that area. So what are they doing in the area? So they are restoring it to its proper proper use through species enrichment. So what do we mean by that? So they only plant native trees in the area, and even during the whole pandemic when everything was locked down, staff from the Philippine Eagle Foundation are still maintaining the area, and they continued planting and harvesting the seedlings for future generations. So actually, they were featured in one of the local uh, media outfits in Mindanao. So this is how it looks like after 1 year. Okay, so you can see that most of the species, native species they plant are actually the fast growing or the pioneer species. So in 1 to 3 years, you could actually have a tree looking, actually a large looking tree already. So something which is taller than an average Filipino. And in another year or so, these trees can already bear fruits on their own. So this is one of the photos courtesy of the Philippine Eagle Foundation. It's a mix. So as much as possible, they want to have a mix or a diverse species mix of native trees in the area. Okay, so what is the future of the Davao Carbon Forest? So this would eventually be a recreational area similar to the La Mesa Nature Reserve, to the UP and the Ateneo grounds, the Nina Aquino Parks in Metro Manila. So people would actually enjoy nature even on an area stone's throw away from where they live. So it's more like a consumerized form of ecotourism. So people can also do studies. The students can also have their research in the area because it offers a lot of biodiversity. This one is a photo I took in 2019 during the BioBlitz in that area. So after the fifth biodiversity quiz bowl, we went there together with the students of Davao City, and then I think they all had fun because they had a lot of wildlife encounters in the area. So I'll be featuring you some of the native trees which we have found in the area. We will only give you a few because of the time limitation. So let me start with Ikyo. So this is also a native tree, a fast-growing native tree. So the fruits are also favored by a lot of avian species. So this tree can grow fast in 1 to 3 years time. This can already reach 2-story height already. Okay, this is Binunga or Macaranga tanarius, another native tree species, also a favorite among uh, a lot of bird species. So what is the benefit of planting pioneer trees during the first stage of reforestation? Actually, they will be called the nurse trees because especially for areas which are totally absent of trees or it's like a baseball field, they would give an umbrella to the area. So since they give a natural umbrella to the area, they would give opportunities for other seedlings to grow and other premium species to be nursed on the bottom part of the forest. This is an alim or Velanolepis multiglandulosa, also a pioneer species. And we also have this at home, and this is frequented often by the Asian glossy starlings. Okay? Okay, this is the balibago or malibago. It's called the sea hibiscus. So most of us knows what a guamela looks like, but not many Filipino knows that there is actually a native guamela here in the Philippines. So this tree is common in the ALI Carbon Forest. You would see it in a lot of places there. In the Bicol region, actually they use this as a candy wrapper. So they have this very popular sweet delicacies called conserva. So this is made up of sweetened pili nuts, and then they use the leaves of the malibago tree to wrap it, and then they sell it as a popular sweet delicacy in the area. So in most countries here in Southeast Asia and also in the Pacific, this tree, beech forest tree is also very charismatic. That's why a lot of them uses them on stamps or on ecotourism areas. And right now, they're also being used for landscaping in urban areas because of its hardy features. This one is the talisay or the terminal de catapa or the sea almond. So here in the Philippines, sometimes we call this as umbrella tree because it gives a lot of shade in a very open area. So the fruits can be eaten. Wildlife also love, especially the large herbivorous birds and bats would often eat their fruits as well. Okay, this is Antanara or the national tree of the Philippines. This is very abundant in the carbon forest. You can see it there. And this is very sturdy and very hardy. So in all environmental conditions, they can actually grow very fast. This is the tanag, also a very fast-growing native tree. So this one is quite famous because the leaves can be eaten, the young shoots can be eaten as vegetable, and then the parts can be processed as for weaving or making it into rope. So actually, there's a lot of ethnobotanical use for this tree, and the fruits are also favored by wildlife. This one is dao or Dracuntumelon dao, one of the hardwoods of the carbon forest. This is actually a threatened plants of the Philippines because uh, it is frequently overused and abused. A lot of the matured ones are illegally harvested in the wild because of its high timber value. This one is tibig. This one is one of the local figs of the area. The fruits are actually eaten by a lot of wildlife. Okay. This one is tita. This one is becoming very popular, especially in urban areas, because of its good architectural form. Landscapers and architects favors this native tree for commercial areas, for resorts, etc. Because it's very hardy. Even the tall ones can be pulled out and transferred to newly established commercial area. This one is the Kalumpang. Actually, there's an area in Metro Manila called Kalumpang Marikina, which was named after this local or native tree. So this kalumpang can give a lot of shade, and the canopy is quite similar to the acacia or the Samanea saman. So if you want to have that kind of effect, this native tree can give you such beauty and function. This is Tipolo or Antipolo, Artocarpus blancoi, an endemic tree which can only be found here in the Philippines. The tree, in some places, is actually used as a lumber material in some places, and in other places as well. The fruits are eaten as raw or are cooked. Okay? So this is Hanagdong in Mindanao, or Anabyong in the Tagalog areas of the Philippines. This one is also a fast-growing tree, and the fruits are favored by a lot of wildlife. This is Lagnog or Hawili. In ethnobotany, especially for medicinal practices, this can be a cure for headaches. So what the indigenous people do here in the zone is they crush, if they have headaches, they harvest leaves of this species, and then all they have to do is to crush the leaves and apply it to the affected part. And sooner, the headaches would go out. This is the Tangisang Layugan or Tangisang Bayawak. This is also a very large or tall native fig growing in the area. So this one is characterized by a very prominent buttress. Okay, so the the bark is also very smooth, and it's very stately. So this one can be considered as one of the noteworthy trees of the carbon forest in Bago Galera. So this one is or also an endemic fig tree of the Philippines. So in the past, when we still don't have those brushes for cleaning our dirty kitchenwares, they use this as a scrubbing agent. So in schools also in the past, this one is used also as a bunot, or or a material to clean or polish the wooden surfaces of the floors of the schools. So during the 2019, it was a very brief visit for me on that area. But during that very brief visits, I was able to encounter some of these wonderful native species in the area. Okay, so from insects, a lot of birds, especially if you go there very early in the morning or late in the afternoon. So during our trip also, this was the star of the day. It was a rat snake uh, feasting on a rat. So we were able to manage the students and the faculty. So instead of being frightened, a lot of them were actually more amazed. So just people just stayed quite far from the subject, and then they took a lot of videos and photos. This only shows that the area is still good and balanced. So there's check and balance. If you don't want to have a lot of pests, there must be predators like snakes, owls, and other raptors. So that area is very also promising, especially that the academe can do a lot of research in the area, just like what Doc Ann and her team was doing when we went there. So even on a very short span of time, they were able to get a lot of beetle samples, and then a lot of students were able to get acquainted with the native trees in that area. So in summary, having a carbon forest improves air quality. It helps mitigate natural disasters, sustains biodiversity, it showcases our natural heritage, educates and promotes environmental awareness. It reconnects us with our long lost synergy with nature. And the carbon forests are templates which needs to be replicated on many areas. So I hope you like the virtual tour of the carbon forest. Thanks very much, and may the native forest be with you.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sir Anthony, for that insightful tour, featuring the flora and some fauna at the carbon forest. And we shall meet you again later for the Q&A with the rest of the speakers as well. All right, so we are down to the last two speakers for today, Sir Jay. This tandem has been regular partners of the Philippine Eagle Foundation on several occasions, no, on several education initiatives, including the last two Wildlife is Here events.
Yes, Carla. And this tandem from the University of Mindanao brought the Coleoptera Research Center to life. And they are here with us for a virtual tour of the beetles. No, we had birds first, trees, and now we go to the beetles of the ALI Davao Carbon Forest. And let me introduce to you the first of our tandem. She has a PhD in biology, major in systematics, and is one of the leading weevil researchers in the Philippines. I also call her the ladybug. She's a National Geographic Explorer and California Academy of Sciences Research Fellow. She currently heads the Coleoptera Research Center, co-founded the Philippine Coleopterological Network, and the Associate Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Tropical Coleopterology. Her research is well-funded, and she has already published more than 40 publications in reputable journals. She co-authored 3 books and has described 20 new taxa. She has also led several citizen science activities, including various bio-blitzes and the first international City Nature Challenge in the Philippines. Everyone, let's all welcome Dr. Annalyn Cabras. And our second speaker has a PhD in biology, major in systematics, and is one of the leading tiger beetle expert in the Philippines. He is presently the Assistant Vice President for Natural Science and Innovation, at the same time the Director of the Institute for Biodiversity and Environment at the University of Mindanao. He is a 2017 Australian Alumni Excellence Awardee and has been involved in biodiversity researches since 2008 and has received various national and international research grants. He has authored nearly 40 publications and has already described 20 plus species that are new to science, including a species named after Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. So everyone, please welcome Dr. Milton Medina.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm so happy and honored to be here, and I commend the presentations of Sir Adri and Ma'am Trinket, as well as Sir Anthony. So ang dami kong natutunan. So I'll be presenting about beetles, as well as my colleague, Dr. Medina. So when we talk about beetles, this is the first that usually comes to our mind, but I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about these beetles. So I'll be presenting about the beetles at the Davao Carbon Forest in Bago Galliera. So nakakamiss, no? Parang kailan lang, Sir Anthony, na we were in ALI Carbon Forest, and then we were talking about it. It's just like yesterday. Pero isang taon, more than 1 year na pala ang lumipas. So I'll be giving a very brief introduction about beetles. Hopefully yung mga nanonood before is, hindi ako sure, baka na-bore na kayo na paulit-ulit ko itong sinasabi. But beetles belong to the order Coleoptera, not Cleopatra, but Coleoptera. It's from the Greek word koleos, which means sheath, and then ptera refers to its wings. Malalaman mo siya na beetles, or it's easy to identify if an insect is a beetle or not, kasi yung kanyang wings is matigas. So the general characteristic of a beetle is, yun nga, it has a hard sclerotized body. It has 2 sets of wings, of which yung nasa upper niya is its hard wings, and then yung sa baba naman is not, and it's the one that is being used for flying. It does have chewing mouth parts, and then it has this holometabolous life cycle, which means na para siyang butterfly. So meron siyang egg, meron siyang larvae, meron siyang pupa, and then the adult. In terms of just really easily telling a beetle from a bug, kasi I always get that question, yung beetle is meron siyang hati sa gitna ng kanyang wing. So if you see something like a bug which looks like, you know, shimmering, shiny, green din ang color, or whatever, yellow, orange, pero wala siyang hati sa gitna, or X yung likod niya, then it's not a beetle. But if you see one which has this hati sa gitna, then it's a beetle. Beetles is quite famous in our culture. So for example, sa Egypt is they have this god named Khafre, wherein yung god na ito is, it has the face of a scarab beetle. So that's why in Egypt, if you are watching yung mga movies in Egypt, which has this, yung mga gods nila, is you will find a lot of beetles na either lumilipad or may iba't ibang characters, because they have this god named Khafre, wherein yung mukha niya is a scarab beetle, and the role niya is it's like new beginning. It's like the rising sun, and siya yung parang yung dang kasi is nagro-roll siya ng ball. So sa kanila yung idea nila is parang yung dang yung Khafre na god na yun is parang niro-roll niya yung sun in the sky. And then beetles also in Thailand, instead of cockfighting, ang ginagamit nila is beetles. So yung beetles is, it's parang yung pangsabong nila. So, they're betting money for that one. And then of course, it's being used as food, including here in the Philippines. So we have so many beetle species na ginagamit as pagkain. And although this one looks, very posh, like it's like a sushi beetle. But I remember my grandfather is, pag nag-iinuman sila ng tuba when I was very young, is they would just get this larva of a beetle and then put it in a vinegar, and then yun na yung pulutan nila. So, diba, walang gastos. So, and then another one is, beetles are also being bred and are also being sold in the market. So for example, this stag beetle in the picture, it's worth 4 million pesos. So in Japan, it's one of the most expensive na beetle. And then in terms of technology naman is, we are using spray, and especially nowadays na, we have this COVID, so we use alcohol a lot. And alam niyo ba na the mist spray is actually inspired by bombardier beetle? So because yung bombardier or yung carabid na yon is meron siya nagre-release siya ng chemical, and so they mimic that one. And then another one is this beetle na ginagamit na cyborg. It is being used in spying in the US. In terms of ecological role is, it does a lot. So one of the main roles of beetles is they help in forest regeneration, which is, it's very helpful. It's very good na, Philippine Eagle partnered with us, and then in featuring also beetles, because beetles play a crucial role in forest regeneration. So for example, in the Bagogaliera Carbon Forest is, a lot of beetles are helping in the process. And then another one is in the decomposition. So these dung beetles are very helpful, para yung ating world is hindi mapuno ng poop. So, and also return the macronutrients to the soil. They are pest control as well. So they are pest and also pest control at the same time. So a lot of our beetles are very helpful. And if you do have a garden and, one of the problem is aphids, yes, a lot of these lady beetles are very helpful in controlling these insects. And then of course in pollination. So I will be featuring some of the interesting beetles that we have found in Bagogaliera Carbon Forest. So one of those is Metapucertes Applenzis. So Metapucertes is an endemic genus in the Philippines. A lot of species are actually still undescribed, and we have this great opportunity of describing a lot of new species from this genus. And yes, although for 100 years ago, yung Metapucertes na ito has not been documented in lowland areas and especially feeding on non-native plants. But because they have to adapt, so a lot of them are also nagiging pest na. Another one is this Seriopsius, which is this very beautiful red color. It's a longhorn beetle, and then it's very helpful in forest regeneration. So sila yung mga kumakain ng mga dead wood sa ating forest. Another one is this flower tumbling beetle or Mordelidae. So ito yung mga Mordelidae, they are very fast. Like we are very interested, and for sure this is a new record for Davao City or probably in Davao region. So and we are so amazed na nakakita kami ng Mordelidae or flower tumbling beetle in Bogo Galliera because usually is nakakakita kami nito in forested areas. And then we also have documented a lot of Tenebrionidae in the area. So etong Tenebrionidae or etong mga darkling beetles, they are also helpful in forest regeneration. So they feed on, dead yung mga woods and then decaying plants. And so nakakatulong din sila. And then we're able to document 3 species of tiger beetles in the area. So this is one of the tiger beetles that we have documented. So we have Terates. Terates or tiger beetles in general are good bioindicator of the ecosystem. And usually is nakakakuha lang kami ng mga ganitong species in areas na meron pang magandang habitat. And medyo na-shock kami and na-amazed that we were still able to document this one in the carbon forest. So if you can see the mandibles of the tiger beetles, so there's no need for me to explain probably why they are named such, because they are actually ferocious predators. And another thing is we were able to document a lot of ontophagus or mga dung beetles in the area. So this is actually very good. It's very helpful in the ecosystem, and they're very helpful in returning the macronutrients to the soil. So we are so happy that we were able to document a lot of these beetles in the area. And yes, as what Sir Jason has mentioned a while ago, the City Nature Challenge is upcoming na naman. So before I do end my presentation, I'd like to promote it. So we will be joining again City Nature Challenge this coming April 30 to May 3. So hopefully for the second time around, this is the second time for Davao City to join. And yes, we are still partners with Philippine Eagle Foundation and DENR and a lot more on this one. And hopefully you will join, and also hopefully in the near future, mas maraming cities pa ang mag-join because at the moment, Davao City pa rin ang the only city in the Philippines that is joining this international competition. So my colleague will be presenting the rest.
Okay, hello guys. Thank you, Anne. Yeah, that one of our major problem when we present, a forum or a gathering like this is that we can never beat the charisma of the birds. And sadly, I just learned that yung ano ba yung birds na kumakain ng beetles, no? Napakasama na bird, no? Greyface buzzard ba yan? And yeah, I mean, I really commend the presentation of Adri and Trinket. Siguro maybe in the future we will make a video of Beatles. So one of my role for this afternoon is to encourage more citizens to go on studying the Beatles. So I'll be sharing with you guys on on how do we do on what we do in the field in studying beetles, particularly in our based on experience with Ali, Davao Carbon Forest. Um, One of the things that you can do in of course studying beetles is of course using by your mobile phones, and this is a very effective way of documenting beetles. And Ann mentioned earlier, that Davao City is joining the City Nature Challenge this year, and we are using this iNaturalist app. This is developed by our partner, the California Academy of Sciences. And yeah, if you don't have iNaturalist app in your phones, please try to download it and explore. And of course, you can always help documenting beetles in the country. Um, Unlike with birds, kasi grabe ang karisma ng birds, no? But I think one of the advantage of studying beetles is you can just get a tube like this, and then you just put alcohol everywhere. You can, is available, no? 75% alcohol, and then you can put beetles there, and then yeah, you can have your beetles. And yeah, you can wait for further studies. If you are not sure, of course, for the identification, you can always contact us, and then we can collaborate in the future. um, if you want to go serious study on beetles, we sometimes do this. This is a hormonal trap or pheromone trap for beetles. One of the interesting aspects of beetles is that I think this is true for most of the animals, that they are attracted to some hormones, particularly pheromones. So we use this now, particularly for longhorn beetles. They are very attractive with these methods. Um, to the right, this is we call this as a pitfall trap. I know there are so many traps employed by some other groups, the vertebrates, and of course we also use pitfall traps for beetles, and we use this in ALI. And most of the species that are captured are from the carabids and some tiger beetles. We also, from the left here, we call this as a malays, and we also employ this in ALI. The problem with this method is, yeah, if you have longer time in the field, you can use this. But if you don't have, like, if you just want to visit Ali, this is not, this is not feasible. Okay. So, and the right is this is what we call a beating sheet. Now, most of the time we just use a used cloth, or we can even use the umbrella. No, baliktadin mo lang yung umbrella, then put it under the tree, and then shrug the tree, and all of those beetles will just fall down into the umbrella. Amazing, isn't it? Oh, so yan. No, so I think yan yung advantage namin sa birds group. Hindi na kami masyadong maglakad-lakad. Oh, di ba? Oh, mas plus points kami sa beetles. Okay. So, and this is what I'm talking with Sir Jason kanina, no, that one of the understudied information about the beetles is their I hope na wala tayong mga minors, but the sex life of beetles are very interesting. No data at all in the Philippines. Yeah, and then yeah, we can explore that, and we can collect more of beetles and study this in details. And for my group, I'm studying tiger beetles. Most often, I use this hand nets. So if you want to be challenged, no, if you want to go, by nature tricking, you can use hand net, and yeah, do it yourself. Hand nets the beetles, right? But of course, if you want just to walk around and just want to relax, and then just want to use your umbrella and shrug some trees and collect some beetles, you can also do that. You can collect some weevils, just like Anne is mentioning. She's studying beetles because Dr. Annalyn Cabras don't want to run very fast, no? Oh, see, so it always starts with the attitude, character of the person. If you just want to relax in the field, and then yeah, you can be like Anne and use their umbrella and then shrug the trees, and then you can get some samples. But for me, I want challenge. No, I'm sure people from the PEF, they always want challenge, because birders always want challenge. No, so Yeah, you can go. You can shift to target beetle studies. Just joke. Okay. So there are also some methods in beetles which are very interesting. And this is you guys that I think one of the great advantage of studying beetles with birds and the trees, Sir Anton Arias, no? is that we have so much potential for new species and no one is working on it, particularly the leaf litter beetles. Right? So you heard me, guys. There's nobody studying on it in the Philippines. Maybe there's one or two, but we have thousands of species waiting to be explored. So these are some of the methods that we use. This is what we call a Winkler method. Sifting. We also do sifting. These are some of our colleagues in the center doing some siftings. And yeah, so if you want to, of course, discover your own species, why not consider beetles? Well, birds are always there, but beetles need some discoveries. Ayan, pinapromote ko na ang beetles. All right. One of the most common methods in studying beetles is the light trap. This is very common for most in entomologists. We use this in ALI, and this is one of, in fact, the most effective. Now, particularly for the flyer species, you can always use this. But of course, it's very important to in studying beetles that you need to explore different microhabitats and the macrohabitats. And what is amazing about the ALI carbon forest is that despite of its very small land area, it has so many microhabitats that cater different species. So, Ma'am Anna, I think there is a need for us to explore more of carbon forests. I'm sure we could find, interesting or possible new species in the field. I mean, that's it, guys. I'll just give you a starter pack of, on studying beetles. Of course, for some researchers who are listening now, if you have some beetles papers or research, you can publish it in our journal. I am managing the journal. You can use the link provided, and everyone is free to visit our center. Of course, we can give you coffee if you like. No? Just study beetles. And of course, we are forming the Philippine Coleopterological Network. This is the first group made by coleopterists all over the world, and we focus on studying beetles for the Philippines. And right, and then of course we would like to thank our partners, especially the Philippine Eagle Foundation. Thank you very much, guys, for being so wonderful partner, a wonderful collaborator in the field. There's more to it, and yeah, let's make the conversation going. Thank you very much for listening.
Wow, that was really overwhelming. No? Maraming salamat, Sir Milton, Doc Ann, and to the rest of our presenters. No? I'm speechless. The presentations were all top notch, and we were very lucky to have witnessed a new world. I hope this changed our perspective. Whenever we pass by green spaces, we would look at them differently. So thank you very much for your very informative presentations.
So there you go. You had the birds, the trees, and the beetle virtual tours at the Ali Davao Carbon Forest. So I'm sure you're all excited to throw in your questions to our speakers. And without further delays, let's move on to our open forum. So may we call on our speakers again for what do we call this? A Q&A or a rematch?
Rematch between birds versus people, with the trees watching the fight.
hahantingin ko yung gray-faced buzzard.
So we have Adrian and Trinket Constantino, Mr. Anthony Arbias, Dr. Annalyn Cabras, and Dr. Milton Medina. Again, we thoroughly enjoyed the presentations, and I'm sure the audience loved it. And while they're typing in questions po, we'll throw in a few and you'll begin with this question, Sir Dave.
Well, thanks, Carla. I want to dive into the first question. So someone already typed in a question, and I think this is also relevant for everyone. So we have a question from Miss Abby Pavis, no? And she wants to ask Trinket and Adri, what's your favorite bird? No? So the same question for everyone. What's your favorite bird for the birds? What's your favorite beetles for the beetles? And what's your favorite tree? Who would like to start? The birds first.
Okay, I'll start. So of course, my favorite bird is the Philippine Eagle.
Wow, Philippine eagle.
So
Why
that's
Philippine
my
eagle?
favorite.
Adri?
How about you, Trinket?
I've only seen the Philippine eagle so few times in my life, so I can't look out my window and be cheered up by the Philippine eagle, unfortunately. So my favorite bird is very simple. It's just the pied fantail or the Maria Capra at the back of our house, and we like watching it all the time.
Okay, pied fantail. Okay, let's move on to our beetles.
It's good that nobody likes the gray-faced buzzard. Yeah.
The pied fantail also eats beetles, sir.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, the pied
Hindi mo yan na-report kanina eh. Oh, hindi mo na-report kanina.
Okay,
But
so
for me, it's tiger beetles. No question. It's tiger beetles.
we're losing Sir Milton, no?
Hello? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's no question. It's tiger beetles.
Okay. And then, Doc Ann?
Can you hear me? Mine is, yeah, of course, no question at the moment. Weevils, especially the tribe Pakirinkini, because they're so lovely, they're so colorful, with beautiful patterns and coloration, and so much to explore and study about this group.
Okay, thank you. And then, Sir Anthony, what's your favorite tree, if I may ask?
Lubi-lubi or nyog-nyogan, Ficus pseudopalma. Actually, it's a very common fig all over the urban places. Yung favorite beetle naman is yung mga rhinoceros beetles. And then for birds naman, kalaw.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for being such a sport. Would you like to ask the next question, Carla?
Sure. We have a question here from Eden Walsh. Is salagubang the Filipino term for beetles in general? I think this is a very simple question, but
Yes.
they want to learn more about the beetles. So that's a good question.
Yes, indeed.
So it is. So Eden, it is. Okay. So we have another question from JB Villegas. In your estimation, how far have we gone in terms of studying beetles in the Philippines? Do we have enough workforce, or are you still recruiting more biologists to join your field? And may nagpaparinig na.
That's exactly why I'm here. Guys, as I've said, birds are always there. There's so many workers. Just go please to beetles, and you can discover new species. Oh, di ba? Ang ganda niyan. Oh, so wag na kayong mag-birds, please guys. Please go to beetles. Oh, at saka yung trees, wag na yung trees. Mag-beetles na kayo. Oo. Yan, kasi
Meron talaga tayong strong advocate for beetles.
Oh, yes. Ma'am Ana, we have at least mga, how many pa? Mga 400,000, 20, yeah, we have 20,000 at least, new species. Also go. What are you waiting for, guys? Now, please go to beetles.
Okay. Beetles and birds.
More beetles so that birds can eat them. Yes.
Oh my God. Oh.
It's a showdown.
Ang sama niyo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Doc Milton. We have another question here, Sir Jay, no? This is addressed to Sir Anthony directly po. Sir, as an ecotourism consultant, what do you think about ALI Davao Carbon Forest as a potential interactive ecotourism site?
Well, it has a lot of potential because it's located on the main highway. So if you're going to look at the map, it's just almost at the back of one of the biggest hospitals in Davao City. So malapit siya sa lahat eh. And the place is very there's a central trail, so you can explore the left side or the right side. So in a few minutes, you'll be at the other end of the property. So very very easy to explore. And yung looks niya is para siyang nasa jungle because especially on rainy season, very soggy yung lugar, wet yung area. And medyo may kakaiba siyang charisma sa for people who's not been into yung mga beach forest na flooded. So yun yung niya, yung niche niya. And then there's really a lot of birds, especially kapag umaga. So napakadali. And for beetles, I was very surprised nung during the bio blitz. So sabi ko sa team ni Doc Ann, saan niya nakuha yung mga beetles na yun? Napakadami naman. Wala, kasabay mo lang. So parang I had two teams na in 3 walks, sila naman beetle hunting. So napakadami lang nakuha in a very short span of time. So it only means na very dense pa yung population ng wildlife sa area. And that gives a lot of potential for ecotourism.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Sir Arbias. Yan, maraming salamat. So thank you for that question, Sir JB. Ayun. Let's roll pa for more questions. We have a lot, no? Medyo nagpa-flag tayo dito, but let's see.
Okay, I think we have another question for the Beetle group. No, mukhang marami na pong Beatles fan
Parang
sa ating
3-1
mga
na sila, sir.
audience, no? Maganda po yung ginawang advocacy ni Doc Ann at saka ni Sir Milton. Mukhang natatalo na po yung ating bird group, no? Bird group ako. Andyan si
It's
Mama
working,
Ana,
guys.
So,
It's working.
hopefully, no, join us, in this battle. The question is for Doc Milton, and this is coming from JD, Jonel Villegas. Aside from your excellent research works at the University of Mindanao, do you also have plans to offer graduate degrees specializing in beetle biology and conservation?
Ay, grabe. Seryoso na to. Okay. Hoy, JV, mag-enroll ka. Next year, we will open MS and PhD in Coleopterology in UM. Yan. Si Ann ata Ann ata yung program head. Hey!
Oh, yeah, may potential na PhD student ka na.
Yes.
Maybe will be finishing his master's degree, no? So soon. So yeah, may potential PhD ka na.
So interestingly, the next question coming from Jelaine Gan, it's about beetles din, no? Are beetles identifiable based on morphology only? Is a photo enough for parang nakataata tayo. Oh, there. Okay, we're back.
Okay. Ann, would you like to answer?
Sige.
Ano ba yun?
Would you
so,
take this, Doc Milton or Doc
sorry, medyo na yung nag-lag. Ano nga ba yun? Pakiulit. Sensya.
Dito po.
Wala tayo. Ayan, we're back.
We're back. Okay.
So sorry, may unstable Wi-Fi network so far. But again, would you like to repeat the question?
Yes, po, sir. So this is from Jelaine Dan. Are beetles identifiable based on morphology only, or is a photo enough for ID to species level?
Yes. If your intention is to identify it through family level, you can use photo. But if your intention is to identify up to species level, it's best to study the specimen under in the laboratory.
Yes, and can I add, for beetles, it can be a bit tricky because sometimes kasi unlike with birds or trees, like napaka-visible ng characters to distinguish one species from another. But as for the beetles, they're usually very subtle. And also for the species level, is usually it's the genital ang ginagamit. So for the photos, yes, it's possible to identify, pero hindi talaga siya 100% sure.
But please don't discourage that because that is advantage to the birds group, no. But please don't be discouraged. So we can identify your species, right?
I think because Jelaine manages UP Wild and we manage Ateneo Wild, I think part of the question was because we get submissions of photos of beetles, and it's so hard for us as non-beetle experts to be able to identify them. So when we post them, very general yung identification nila.
Ay, akala ko mag-study ng Beatles.
Para ma-interest yung mga ibang tao because we show the pictures of the beetles.
Yes, of course. We will help you identify your photos as much as we could. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Doc Anna and Doc Milton. We have another question here for the bird group. Okay. So in terms of the bird community, so we have gathered initial data. Would you say that the area has a rich bird diversity?
So the ALI Davao Carbon Forest has 54 species of birds recorded so far. No, so and as Doc Jason mentioned a while ago, it's a very nice habitat because it's lowland forest, which is a rare commodity all over the Philippines. No? So I think with more studies, mas marami pang species na madi-discover sa area, and it should be good for birding. For the
Yes,
birding.
especially if it's a very accessible place for people for observation. With the length of time, kasi the more people who watch out for the birds, the more species are seen eventually, especially with the migrants that there are only certain times of the year that they will be seen. We're sure that the bird list for the ALI Davao Carbon Forest will expand greatly over the years.
Yes. Any estimate? No, perhaps how many more birds can we see? Just a parang ballpark estimate lang based on your experiences. Mga ilang species pa kaya ang makikita natin?
Well, hopefully we'll get to around 80 to 100 species because it's a lowland forest. So mas mataas yung biodiversity compared to of birds.
Nice.
So hopefully we get to 100 species.
Yeah, so that's the target, no? 100 species. So we would like to invite yung
or even higher.
Hanapin po natin yung mga birds natin sa ALI Davao Carbon Forest.
Kailangan lang talaga laging may nanunood.
There's always monitoring. And then of course yung habitat protection is also essential.
True.
And planting native trees.
Planting native trees, studying the beetles, they're all important, all connected.
Yes. Well, thanks for pointing that out, because I think we have a question here about planting planting of native trees. No? So the question goes like this: what is the effect of planting native tree species in the bird and beetle diversity of ALI Davao CF? So perhaps we'll start with the beetles. The effect of planting native trees to the species of beetles. And Sir Milton?
Yes, it follows that if we plant native trees, it will also follow that, you know, the native species are also, or the endemic species are also, we can also find a lot of endemic species. So yeah, it always follows.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And for the birds?
So for the birds, the trees and the plant life are very important. It provides them not only food, so there's different types of food. There's food directly from the tree, like the fruits, the flowers, the shoots. But there's also food because of the other wildlife that is attracted to the trees, like the insects, the small vertebrates like the lizards. So those serve as food for birds also, so indirectly. And aside from food, it's also very important for birds for shelter and for nesting. So they find refuge in these trees, in these native trees, appropriate for them to roost in, for them to nest in. So it's really very, the vegetation is really very important. And we all know that, of course, the relationship between the native trees and the native wildlife is very tight. Yun yung mga kilala ng mga ibon natin. So native trees are very important in propagating native wildlife.
Yes, correct. So native trees, food, shelter, and breeding places. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Ayan. Ayun. So thank you po, beetlers and birders. Ayan. We have a question here, and this time it's for the trees naman. So based on its diversity, how would you consider the tree community in terms of its age? Sir Anthony.
Well, they have some big trees already at the carbon forest. So these are some of the remnant trees. So they're not too many, but since they're planting a lot of fast-growing native trees, there would come a time na halos magiging magkasinaki na din sila. So, and I told the guys who are managing the area na to look for yung mga mas matatanda. We call them the mother trees because especially for tree walks, for that purpose, yun yung mas gusto nang makita ng ng public and ng mga visitors, yung talagang full potential nung puno. So I think they have an eye for it naman, and it's quite easy because very manageable yung lugar para mahanap yung mga mother trees na yun. And those mother trees, parang dual purpose siya eh. Not just only for showcasing or showing it to people, siya rin yung source ng seedling material or planting materials for future generations. So siya, multi-purpose, and very iconic din siya for that place. So talagang it's a must that you have to find them.
Okay. Thank you po, Sir Anthony. We have a question here. I think this goes out to everyone, no? But I'll start with you off po, Sir Anthony. How can we encourage ordinary people to take more interest in urban green spaces such as the ALI Davao Carbon Forest?
When everything is already okay and we have the permits to go around, you check out the area first. So I think the management is offering yung mga tours for that area. So explore muna tayo, and then apart from that tour, they also do explanation. So yung mga step by step na how to plant, what to plant, yung mga ganung bagay. So parang it's a toolbox na hindi lang siya yung pasyal na para for starters, mas madali will be guided accordingly. Hindi yung parang bibili lang tayo ng seedling tapos hindi natin alam na sobrang namuhala pala yung nabili natin na not fit for our lot. So siguro yung mga foresters nila doon and yung mga technical persons would guide you through dun sa actual. Plus, seeing them personally, may kita mo na ay ito pala siya kapag kapag personal, ganito pala nakalaking patres nito, ito pala ay masyadong mataas for my place, etc. So, and in every tour, may accompanying stories din yun. So parang, uy, okay yun by just hearing them say those stories, parang na-inspire ka na. So that makes the connection. So parang ako din kasi is further, parang kakaroon ka ng spark sa sa native tree appreciation. So sabi nila, when the appreciation is there, sooner or later, yung protection would come second. So yun yung sana ma-achieve natin in the short run and especially in the long run.
Right. Thank you for that insight, Sir Anthony. Would any of our speakers want to answer that question as well?
Siguro we can always start with our own backyards. Kung meron tayong maliit na garden or maliit na green space at home, you'd be surprised na you'd see several species of birds, beetles, trees there, insects. No? So start at home. Get us probably a small sized pair of binoculars and then or magnifying glass or a small point and shoot camera, and then just be observant in your backyard or in your urban park na malapit sa atin. Kasi we're still stuck in quarantine because of the pandemic, so that's probably the closest thing that we can do now. Start close to your home. Would you like to add?
Yeah, saka, there's so many available materials now. When I was younger, there wasn't so much material about local wildlife, local natural history. But now there's really so much information available. And that's one of the good things about internet and the Facebook, because if you search, may nakita kang beetle, may nakita kang butterfly. Dati parang hindi mo naman malalaman kung ano yun. But now there's so many people, there are so many experts who are willing to share their knowledge. And it sort of sparks the interest to all of nature in general.
Okay.
Right. I see. Good input.
Yeah.
Maraming salamat po. Do we have more questions, Sir Jay?
Or maybe we can hear also from our Beatles group para hindi sila magtampo.
Sige, para square.
So again, how can we encourage ordinary people to take more interest in urban green spaces such as the ALI Davao Carbon Forest? Sir Milton and Aman.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, there are so many things you can do. Number one is that, as I've said in my PowerPoint, that you can download the iNaturalist app. It's a very, very useful app where you just take photos of the flora and fauna within your vicinity. This is in support to Adri's idea. Just start with your backyard, and yeah, and of course, when you start in your backyard, you can use your camera. Download please the iNaturalist app, right? And then upload it. So when you upload it, you are contributing to the global information of distribution of flora and fauna all over the world. So as simple as that, you just take a photo, upload it, you are already contributing to the world's fauna and flora information. Of course, number two, this is very important for me. You just get a mineral water and then put some alcohol, and then if you could find some beetles, put it there and then send it to me. Right. Right? Okay. Very easy.
Okay, so we'll be sending the email address and the home address of Sir Milton for all your specimens.
I will take charge of the flight and and everything.
Okay.
All right. So we actually have a few more questions, but we are also pressed with time. We'd love to accommodate more from the audience, no, but we regret that we have to wrap up na po. Again, thank you for joining us. We are grateful and honored. We would love to have final messages from each and everyone addressed to the audience. to our general public. So let's start off with Sir Anthony na lang po kasi you started. Ay, sino ba nag-start yun? Si
Neutral ground.
Sige, Sir Anthony.
Let's always think that it's never too late to plant. Sabi nga nila, there's a saying that the best plan to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the next best time to plant is today. So, kagaya nung napakita ko sa inyo, that was my experience. Yung 12 years experience ko was really satisfying on why I chose mga native trees. So, especially this pandemic season, we can say that we were happy because andito lang sa bahay. Pero somehow, we benefited, hindi makalabas sa bahay, pero yung wildlife was just around our house. So if you're a naturalist and you still have spare space on your front yard or at your backyard, you do the tawag sabi nga nila yung paradigm shift. So choose native trees, and then the rest would be natural history. So happy planting to all of you, and I hope everybody inspired to go birding, beetling, and native planting. So maraming salamat.
Right. Thank you po, Sir Anthony. And then, ihuli na natin si Sir Adri at si Miss Trinket kasi sila naman nauna kanina. So, sige. So, let's have Ma'am Ann and Sir Milton.
Yeah, don't be afraid of anything that's crawling. Don't be afraid of bugs, beetles, all the other arthropods. Like if you find spiders sa bahay nyo, or if you find beetles or kahit anong insekto, don't be afraid and don't kill them. Get to know them, and they're actually very helpful in our ecosystem, and they also have life. So I think they would appreciate if hindi lang natin sila, bubuhayin natin sila, and we will allow them to do whatever they need to do in the ecosystem.
Well, for me, yeah, our world is becoming more, distracted, and I think the best thing that we can do is to inspire each one, our family, our friends, and even among ourselves. Conservationists, researchers in the field, we need to take inspiration from each one. So yeah, just keep going, and we'll see what the future holds. So keep inspiring each one. Let's have fun.
Yeah, so that's right. Now let's have fun. This quarantine period, we really appreciated the green spaces around us because we were so limited. We were so used to going out birding every weekend to as far as we could probably go with the allowed time. But the green spaces around us took on a whole new meaning because that's all that's all we could watch. So maybe that's a good place to start. Just start with what's familiar to you. Start with that bird outside your window. Watch it every day until it becomes your best friend. And then for sure you will notice all other things also. What tree it visits, what insect it's eating, what other wildlife is around it. So doon tayo mag-start. And if you're already interested, always take friends out. Share the passion, share the love. Because kahit na ano pang field ng friend nyo, there's always something in nature to be inspired. Inspired to. That is inspiring to people of all walks of life.
All right. So thank you po so much. But of course, we won't end the program without a message from Ma'am Ana Gonzalez. Ma'am, we'd like to hear from you po. What's your message to our youth of today, and of course to everyone who is watching our live stream?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to Milton, to Anne, and of course, Adrian Trinket. My message is really similar to what they're saying. Look for something that inspires you in nature. And number two, don't be afraid of nature. I think I noticed that a lot of people are afraid of nature, and it just takes a little bit getting used to. They're also, creatures like you and me, and take this opportunity, this quarantine period, as the COVID period, as an opportunity to get to know them. We all know, I think you've heard that the pandemic or pandemics are actually they actually happen because we've been intruding too much sa natural spaces. So I think the way to give back is by actually acknowledging their presence, appreciating them. Basically, ewan ko paano to sa Beatles no? Staying away from them because as a birder, that's actually our training. Stay, admire them from afar, but don't catch them, don't kill them, just watch them. For Beatles, I think this is a whole new world that you've opened up to me. Let's see how many more we can discover. And I think that wraps up actually my message to everyone. Observe, discover, and acknowledge, and be inspired by nature. So that's it. Thank you.
Wow naman. Thank you so much po, Ma'am Anna. So there, once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we are very grateful and we are honored, and we hope to have you again at the Carbon Forest for more exciting bird, beetle, and tree discoveries. No, we hope to have a maybe rematch next wildlife is here. So thank you all.
Everyone.
See you
Really
soon.
appreciate it. Yeah. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this juncture, we have been talking about the importance of planting native trees and building habitats for our dear wildlife, and so now we bring you to our efforts in building additional habitats at the ALI Davao Carbon Forest through forest restoration. And how do we do it? Please watch this.
Regreening grasslands at the ALI Davao Carbon Forest requires diligence, careful care, and patience. Our restoration work followed the basic steps in rainforestation technique. These are nursery establishment, planting, and tree care and maintenance. Nursery establishment is a combination of collecting and raising parent wildlings and rescuing or collecting larger wildlings through earth balling. Wildlings that are 20 to 30 cm high are carefully collected from the nearby woodland. These Parrots are then carefully transferred at the nursery for bagging. The newly transplanted wildlings are then hardened for 3 months at our nursery. Larger wildlings that are at least a meter tall, they are collected with a ball of soil attached to the roots. Banana sheets are used as a temporary pot, then these ball outs are hardened for at least a month in our nursery. While the wildlings are at the nurseries, we prepare our restoration plots.
To cope with periodic floods at the site, we use a modified mounding method for preparing the soil for planting.
We dug a 2 feet diameter hole on the ground and mounded the soil at the center of the hole. Then, each seedling will be planted at each mound. Doing so spares the seedling from getting soaked in the water. Holes are 2 meters apart, and we remove the paragrass and weeds around each hole to avoid competition. Each hole is also marked with bamboo sticks once ready for planting. We also plant various species to prevent monocropping and ensure a diversity of forest trees. We plant after 3 o'clock in the afternoon to avoid drying the seedlings, and the cool evening allows the roots to start anchoring to the new soil overnight. We We gather water from a nearby creek using a water pump and store it in drums near each plot for ease of access. Watering will be done once a week or every other day depending on the season. For control of weeds, manual cutting and grass pressing is combined. To maximize the resources, we use the mold grasses for mulching, a process used to conserve soil moisture and improve soil health. Every quarter, random seedlings are measured to monitor seedling growth. For trees that have grown tall, we prune the branches to promote further growth of additional branches. This also directs the tree to form a crown. Building tree canopies is important as it further shades out the weeds. Trees who like shade and cooler temperatures, such as lawaan and other shade-loving species, can be planted in between the pioneer trees. This further increases the biodiversity in the area.
There you go! With patience and careful care, we can indeed restore habitats for urban wildlife at the carbon forest. Happy tree nurturing!
All right, so there you go. That's how we bring back our native trees. And again, we only plant native trees and not exotic nor introduced species. And if you want to get involved, we have opportunities for you, whether you are in Davao, in Manila, in Palawan, or even abroad. No, there's something for everyone. And if you want to know more and you want to know how we do it, watch this video.
Hi everyone! I am Carla of the Philippine Eagle Foundation and I am here at the Carbon Forest. Now I'm going to share with you opportunities how to be part of a reforestation project. Do you want to make a difference by helping restore a forest? Do you want to gain a more intimate connection with nature? We have great news for you. You can become a carbon warrior. We have 3 carbon warrior programs you can choose from. Volunteerist, virtual volunteers, and regular volunteers. Are you the kind who wants to be directly involved in the planting, monitoring, and maintenance of trees? Do you want to actively participate in the manual work at the carbon forest? Sign up now as a carbon warrior regular volunteer.
For 6 months, you get a chance to join the best reforestation team and accomplish weekly and monthly targets to help ensure the growth and survival of the trees. And don't worry, you'll be assisted by able-bodied forest guards from our indigenous partner communities, just like Kuya Fernan here. Kuya, hi!
All these while making new friends and other like-minded individuals, as well as learning useful technical skills on reforestation. No minimum volunteer hours are required. Just come and go any weekday you are available. Isn't that cool? We'll be waiting for you. If you're not based in Davao City but still want to contribute remotely, you can join our Carbon Warrior virtual volunteers. By just sponsoring a single tree's maintenance for 6 months, you help ensure its survival. What a rewarding feeling it is to still make an impact and contribute to a reforestation project despite not being physically present. Help us nurture a carbon forest now. Your donation matters. Are you interested in getting a full Carbon Warrior volunteer experience, complete with on-site reforestation work and planting of your own tree without the long-term commitment? Become a volunteerist and experience fun and interactive learning sessions about forest restoration at our site, all in one day. As volunteerists, we are giving you the opportunity to connect with nature. Not only will you get to choose between 2 exciting activities to experience, nursery care or plant care and maintenance, you'll also experience a forest walk. Enjoy the calming ambiance of the forest with natural sounds, soft breeze, and warm sunlight coming through the leaves, and drink in the taste of fresh air. At the Carbon Forest, we practice biosafety protocols and set new normal guidelines in place. At the site, Everyone's safety is our utmost priority. So which carbon warrior are you? Contact us at this email and put regular volunteer, volunteerist, or virtual volunteer in the subject box. Our team will reach out to you shortly after for the sign-up form. Once you have it, fill it up and submit. Settle the registration fees in any of the following accounts. Once validated, you will receive a confirmation email. And that's it. You're officially a carbon warrior.
Okay, so we're looking forward to having you as our carbon warrior. And again, you have three options. You can be a regular volunteer, you can be a virtual volunteer, or you can be a volunteerist. And at this point, we're very happy to announce that we have already our first virtual volunteers through the Philippine Eagle Youth. No, they're a youth-led charter based in Manila that champions the Philippine Eagle. And we are joined by their two representatives, Ileana and Mercedes.
Hello, we are the Philippine Eagle Youth Council, and we are so excited to join the PEF and the official launch of their Carbon Warrior program. We had partnered with the PEF to originally pilot the Carbon Warrior program and shared that for just 500 pesos, anyone, anywhere in the world, could adopt one tree and have it planted in the carbon forest. And although we were nervous to start, we're so glad that we did, because we have been able to foster a community of so many passionate people willing to help, and all they needed was a chance to do so.
In fact, in the 2 weeks since our program was piloted, over 328 trees have been adopted. So why are we here today? We are here because we have only scratched the surface for what can be achieved. Our forests are still deteriorating at an alarming rate. Since the 1980s, the forest cover of the Philippines has dropped from 70% to 20%. We can do something to stop this. We are speaking today on behalf of the Philippine forests, on behalf of the 832 endemic animal species, and on the 15 million indigenous people that rely on our local wildlands for survival.
We are at the precipice of a climate disaster. The earth is warming and our oceans are dying. So in times like now, the forests that you can help save are our most valuable defense against calamity. We want to remind you that you can make meaningful change. So if you can, please lend your time or your money and invest in the carbon forest. The time to act is now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eliana and Mercedes. As of speaking, the Philippine Eagle Youth has raised sponsorship for 369 trees already, and we started planting these trees 3 days ago. So watch this video.
So today we will be planting shade-loving trees like mayapis and bagtikan, and sun-loving trees like bogo and malibago. And this tree planting activity will be assisted and supervised by our forester, Kuya Guillier Opiso. So let's follow them.
All right. So that's so amazing. Well, thank you so much Philippine Eagle Youth. Now, did you know, Sir Jay, that they originally targeted only 50 trees, no? And now they have over 300 tree sponsorships more. Isn't that amazing?
Well, yes, definitely. And I'm sure it entailed a lot of lobbying and a lot of efforts from the group. So thank you very much, Philippine Eagle Youth, for your generosity and for your support. And of course, we would also like to appreciate and acknowledge the help of our indigenous forest guards, our Bantay Bukid, organized and supported, of course, by the city government of Davao City.
Right. So I think that wraps up the day, Sir Jay. I hope you all enjoyed learning about the carbon forest and its bird, tree, and beetle residents. And we hope to see you soon as volunteerists or regular volunteers, or maybe just like Eliana and Mercedes, who are virtual volunteers, no?
That's right. And as you've seen, indeed, remnant forest patches are home to remarkable flora and fauna. And we're counting on everyone to keep these homes intact, not only for wildlife, but for people as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon, if circumstances allow, at the ALI Davao Carbon Forest.
Right. And once again, thank you to our partners, our co-presenters, the DNR Regional Office 11, Whitley Fund for Nature, Davao Light and Power Company, our project partners, the Ayala Land Incorporated, the Australian Embassy, the Arakan LGU, University of the Philippines Mindanao, and University of Mindanao, and to our speakers today, and Ana Gonzalez. Thank you so much po. And goodbye everyone, and stay safe.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye po.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay na?
Yes!
Thank you! Thank you po.
Thank you.
I think we're still live.